Hi, it's Sherry Kalergis live from Vancouver with That 45 magazine. And I'm excited to have with me today Tanya Lyn Werk, who's been a financial planner for more than 20 years. She joined Scotiabank Global Wealth in order to help women with their money. And she regularly leads workshops for groups in British Columbia, including government, social, and employer groups, both large and small. Tanya Lyn sits on the Langley Memorial Hospital Foundation Advisory Committee, is the president for Seniors Professionals Connect, and a past executive and coordinator for Valley Women's Association. She has multiple designations within the financial industry, a diploma in legal studies, and has a straightforward ability to speak to the issues of wealth today. And she's a wife and a mother of two and a grandmother of nine. She was born in North Vancouver and currently lives in the Brookswood area of Langley. So, welcome, Tanya Lyn.
Yay, hi.
It's so nice to have you on the show today. I was sharing with you earlier that besides health, wealth or money is number two issue with women in the world today as they age. And I'm wondering, what is it about women um, that that makes it necessary to have plans for our money?
What is it about women that makes it necessary to have plans with our money?
Yes.
That is a killer question. So, first of all, less than half of Canadian women do have an actual structured financial plan, which is sad because many more men do. And we typically put ourselves on the back burner quite often to take care of others and life and all things that get thrown at us. Um, and it's super important because we live longer. We typically earn less on average still. We're working on it. We pay the same or more for items in life. And when we have time away, we may spend what we have managed to save to fill in for what we don't earn during the downtime. So we have a lot of obstacles to conquer. And it's very doable. The sooner the better. So I think having a plan is an absolute must to see where you're at as you go.
Well, now that you've mentioned it that way, it's absolutely true. Often women are sort of on the side of financial planning, and often we end up in our later years actually needing or being the key finance person in our household. So, what are some of the points that or the steps that we can take to get a plan in place as women?
Well, wide variety of options depending on where we're at, age wise, family wise, income wise, savings under our belt or perhaps none. Are we in a relationship? Do we blend our money? Are we in a blended family? All kinds of questions to start before giving advice on a first step. Generally speaking, taking inventory of what you have is of the utmost importance. So, what do you have? What do you own? What do you owe? And is there improvements to be made there? And writing down what you want to see in the future. And then, of course, that's where you build a plan from is where are we at? Where do we want to go? And then what tools do we have to get there? So I would say taking an inventory of everything financial is one of the first steps you can do for yourself.
A good place to start. Now, lots of times, I hear that women feel that they don't have enough
Mm.
money to actually have anything to plan for. Um, in that reality, um, do you have any suggestions?
I agree with you. I think a lot of women do feel they don't have enough. Sometimes just rearranging what you're doing or approaching it with a new set of eyes can improve the situation. Maybe putting money aside isn't the number one goal for the next little while. Maybe it's an attack plan if debt is an issue, if lifestyle is an issue, and while you're preparing to make changes or improvements, maybe that's what you do to get to the next step to be able to save. Regardless, though, there has to be a plan. So even if you say, I have no liquid, I don't have money at the end of the month to do anything with, there is a way to get from there to a better place. So that tells me there's a reason to sit down and talk to a professional and start planning.
Oh, absolutely. That makes total sense now. What are some of the other things that we need to take stock of as we're starting to make a plan?
How much tax are we paying? Are we overpaying tax on our income that would be better served in our pockets? Of course. Is there a way that we can keep that money rather than pay it up front, and do something with that? What about if we've changed employment? Do we have pensions or previous retirement savings sitting, being unattended, that could actually be growing and being worked with into your plan moving forward with your own choices? So taking inventory of your history, where have you worked, when have you worked, what are you earning, how much are you paying, are you missing deductions, are you missing benefits, are you contributing monthly to a charity, and is that hurting your cash flow, but you want to give, and maybe you're in a tax bracket that isn't really benefiting from that amount per year, but in the future, leaving a legacy would be a huge improvement, a way to give and give a tax benefit to what will be your estate. So many conversations, maybe you do some of both. Many conversations to have. There's opportunity all over the place. And I think it's up to us in the professional field to present those to people we talk to who wouldn't necessarily be aware of every change or opportunity that opens up as time goes by. I mean, if they're not in this as a career, why should they be expected to know what's available to them? It's up to us to advise. So that, if that makes sense.
It does totally. And it goes back to, you know, when we're really busy. And as women, we're often the caregivers and everything. So when our head is down to the grindstone, we're not really taking that upper look at everything or taking a step back and viewing it. So once we start to take stock, as you said, and take inventory, then naturally we're going to probably start to have some questions, and
Mhm.
then having that professional to sort of query you and get you thinking about options. I think many women would feel really relieved to know that there are options, and that just because they've been doing something the same way doesn't mean that they have to keep doing it that way.
Right. And some of us have received some advice that's very other old school advice, maybe tainted advice that someone heard, that somebody had this huge, negative event in an investment or a business opportunity. So never do that. And then we grow up believing that, not knowing that somebody was too aggressive for their own good or made a bad choice and it was their own choice. All kinds of reasons that we fear opening up and allowing potential growth opportunities into our lives in the form of finance. And I think a lot of it has to do with, not, and when I say lack of education, I don't mean we're unintelligent. I just mean no one's let us know. Nobody has said, hey, by the way, have you thought of this? And like I said, you don't walk past someone every day who goes, FYI, so you kind of need that go-to, that researcher, that person who can say, here's what you have, here's what I see, what do you think, right? That's a really important conversation, because what I see may not be what the individual wants. So you've got to have a conversation with somebody that has an unbiased set of eyes with education, who's able to give you an unemotional suggestion regarding your financial future.
Yes, I can see that. I'm just thinking about myself personally. A lot of the, like, even though we're like over 45, some of us, over 60 or 70, even though we're intelligent women, we have brought along with us a lot of the learning from our parents as to how to
Right.
deal with money, and that's not always to our benefit. In fact, sometimes it's not at all. So if we haven't been learning about finances or managing our money, or if our husband has been managing money, or some other partner has been managing our money, then we sort of are starting from a position where we actually need to get educated
Mhm.
about the financial aspects of financial planning.
Yeah, and if I can mention something, I'd be careful who you're getting the education from as well, because you want to know what their background is. Quite often, you can turn on the TV, you can see somebody who's talking about fear and doomsday, and we call them doomsday prophets, right? And it turns out they want everyone hanging on the edge so that they can sign up to their newsletter, and then they get paid. And as soon as everything's going great, they disappear. Where are they now? I thought we were all going to be in fire and brimstone, and yet they're nowhere to be found. So be very, very careful who is educating you or who you're listening to. And if they're instilling any type of fear or panic in you, it's probably not a legitimate person giving you advice, because nothing about your money should make you upset or scared. If anything, you should leave having a discussion, being driven, knowing where you're at, feeling in control, and with a plan. And that's what I strive to share to anyone I speak to, is how do you get control of this? How do we move forward here? What can we look at to improve this, this, and this? Maybe it's little, maybe it's big, but regardless, it will affect you in one way or another.
So accreditation is important. Lots of people, I think nowadays, especially on the internet, can, can pretend to be something they're not.
Oh,
So
so true.
is there some particular way women can check the accreditation, or look for certain things about people that they're talking to with their finances?
Well, one thing I say is get out there and listen to someone speak. So watch them on a video if they're local. Ask if you have questions about who to go to and you don't want to go that route. Ask your people around you that you trust, who do you work with? And if they work with someone and they talk about them highly, this is what I feel, they're always in contact, I know what's going on, I have a written plan, I'm doing great, I know what happens in the ups and the downs, I've removed my debt in a methodical, systematic, positive way, then you might want to know that person. If you don't want to ask people, because we're not always comfortable going up to our friend going, hey, tell me about your money, then get into a workshop, get into a seminar, go online and take these type of videos, and then go to that person and say, I'd like to talk to you, I'd like to meet with you, have an introductory meeting, be prepared to share everything, because if you don't, people like me can't help. They should give you a list of items that you should have ready for reference, and you should be able to talk openly and freely. Here's where I'm at, and here's where I want to be. And they should ask you, tell me about your experience with money. Tell me, why are you here now? And why do you want to be there? And what does that mean to you? Give me a visual. Like, if we don't understand what it is you want to accomplish. You can say, I want to retire, at a certain age with this much money. Yay, but what for? Are you going to travel? Are you going to volunteer? Because that'll cost more. Are you going to work? Are you going to have purchase of business? Are you going to semi-retire? Like, all these factors will affect taxation, which will affect your estate, and it can erode your cash flow if you're not careful. So there's just a huge open conversation needs to take place with anyone you go to. They should have some accreditation. So RRC is retirement counselor, and they're accredited, they are educated, they are governed, and they have to continuously educate. CFP, certified financial planner. You have your EPCs, those are for elders. There's 1,000 designations right now. And I know some people with certain designations that, don't do what I do. And I know people that have one designation that do everything. So I think it's really, are they educated? Are they licensed? And then talk to them, see what they're like, and see where you're comfortable.
Great advice. Now, one thing I heard you mention was about estate, and of course, none of us like to think about that. But having a will and your estate in order, in case you do pass away, it's just so critical, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, not having things in place can cost right off the bat tens of thousands of dollars. So if you don't in Canada, in BC, power of attorney can cost a couple $100 to get it written up for you and a spouse. Have a conversation before you go in. The same thing for a will. But if you don't have those in place, somebody has to apply or be appointed by the courts, and that can be 6 to 8 to 12 months of a wait. It can be 5 figures and up. We're hearing 10,000 is quite average right now, just to be appointed a power of attorney. And that's your legal and financial when you can't talk or act on your own behalf. So you need to have protective documents in place. Figure out first what you're working toward or what you have. Should it be held in or out of the estate? Once you figure that out and how you're using each asset, how do we protect it for long-term care? How do we avoid probate? Then you see the lawyer and the notary can write the documents to protect what's left in the estate and write up the agreement for your appointeds. And then the accountant starts applying deductions and benefits that maybe we've created or that you've already had. So seeing a financial planner, a lawyer or notary, and accountant all have a place, and all of them are there to protect your assets. So that's the main point. The main point is protect your assets, know why you're doing it, go get the documentation so that others aren't lifting the burden and guessing on what to do for you. Long-winded answer, sorry.
No, I mean, absolutely great information. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, Tanya Lyn. Tanya Lyn is going to be a regular contributor to At 45 magazine. You can find her articles in at45.com. And how can people get in touch with you, Tanya Lyn?
Email or phone. I'm happy to take calls. I love talking to people all over and see if there's anything that I can help with. Like I said, Sherry, if we don't give back, it doesn't work. My email, should I say it?
Yes.
On here? Okay, so Tanya Lyn, TANYALYN.work, as in workaholic, WERK, at scotiabank.com. Or you can call my number, 604-499-3594. And yeah, happy. Just say that you're calling because you heard me with Sherry's interview or newsletter, columns, wherever you found me here, now that I'm part of the team, yay. And more than happy to give you a shout back.
Well, we're very excited to have you, Tanya Lyn. So thanks again for sharing today. And we're looking forward to learning a lot about our money.
Well, thanks for having me.